As you leave the main gate at Melrose toward the store and the cotton gin, there's a road that may have been in use when George Washington was still a British subject. Go right down that road a bit, and you'll come to a little cabin, no different from dozens of others occupied by the hired hands who work the groves and fields of Melrose. No different, except for a sign that says, Art Exhibit, 25 cents to look. Behind that sign lives Clementine Hunter, field hand, cook, and washwoman in her younger days, and an artist of international fame in her later ones. She's always lived like this, in a clapboard shack with a half-screen porch to keep out the mosquitoes and let in the breezes of summer, and a wood stove to hold away the dank drafts of winter. The sign is a minor lie these days. There's no art exhibit, not even a personal collection of the artist's own favorite works. She sells everything she paints. The only indication of her artistic presence is the artist herself, sitting beside her wood stove, a piece of beaver board in her lap, marking, her word for it, the latest of her paintings. She works only from her memories, but there are many of them, going back to a time when even young men could remember slavery on the nearby Robert McAlpin plantation where she was born, a plantation reputed to be the model for Simon Legree's in Uncle Tom's Cabin. Mrs. Hunter has no idea how old she is, and really doesn't care. Those to whom such things do matter have compromised on 1885 as her probable birth date, making her just about 90. She had already retired as the chief cook and wash lady at Melrose when, in the early 40s, she turned her hand to painting. At the time these films were taken, in the mid-50s, she was a seasoned veteran of at least a decade at her art. But why would it ever occur to an uneducated woman whose experience included no wider knowledge of the world than the rural lands and small towns around Melrose to take up art at all? Attribute that to Melrose, and more specifically to its mistress in those days, Mrs. John Hampton Henry. Mrs. Henry had created at Melrose a setting in which art throve, and artists and writers were house guests not for days or weeks, but for months and years. Francois Mignon, who lived there for decades, recalls the milieu in which Mrs. Hunter made her monumental step from domestic to artist.
Under the hand of Mr. Henry, the plantation flowered, and under the hand of his wife, Miss Cammie Garrett Henry, the arts began to blossom too, and people of distinction in the fields of writing and painting, and liked to come to Melrose because they felt that here they found a certain amount of quiet and relaxation that rather inspired them.
It was in this setting that Clementine Hunter, armed with the remnants of tubes of paint discarded by the Melrose artists and with brushes given her by Mignon, painted her first picture on an old window shade.